that the priest had over the people.
Yep.
So you could read for yourself, and you could even tell the priest, I'm reading it. It's not saying what you're saying.
That's actually not what it says.
No, this is not really what it says. Or is it a different version that you're reading?
Okay. Power to
Now,
the people.
yes, it is. So remember, when people demand for this, again, it's really a right. You cannot be talking to us about something that is supposed to change our lives, and our participation is being based on what you are telling us? No.
No.
It means you're participating by yourself.
You're talking at us.
Single participation.
Single participation.
Right.
Yes.
Small story tucked away somewhere, right?
Page 5 of the standard.
As
if
a
you want
by
to-
the way.
Yes, a by the way, but it's actually, I think, really good.
It's a headline story, isn't it?
It was politics, though.
No, what do you mean
It was an entire intention of disrupting a meeting.
By 1,000 people.
Yes.
What were they paid?
Not all 1,000 people were.
1,000?
Yeah.
What were they paid?
Yeah, 1,000 each.
All these monies that we keep reading about which disappear,
Where do you think
some of it goes to?
No.
1,000 people are few.
No. That's very little.
1,000 people are very few.
And
To
there's very
elicit such
and there's very
genuine
little that
outrage.
there's very little that they need
do
to be
not
satisfied
believe
to be able to do
all
something like this.
1,000 people were up in arms demanding.
Come on. They were.
Surrounding patch,
100
evenly
people
distributed.
making noise is
Yeah.
a lot of noise.
Yes.
100. 10, a lot of noise. 1,000.
Very well strategically placed from this corner, that corner, the other corner.
It was
start making
clearly
noise here.
contrived, clearly.
well.
But
the fact that
appropriate.
It's Kenyans demanding to read something. 1,000 of them.
I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah.
I'm in complete agreement with you because, in all honesty, there are people who will tell you, I have 4 copies of this, and I'm not sure which is which. So you get the impression that when they are dissenting voices, some of the dissent is included in the next document. But why is it that something this simple? You have gazette notices, overnight, it's out.
It's
in the
out.
public
It's
domain.
possible.
Of course it's possible. So why is it that this hasn't been printed? Should it not have been the document from which all our debate emanates?
Of course.
Of course, it should have
Should
been. It
find
should have been made readily
easy
available to
ways
the
of
public.
disseminating
Yes.
this
So
information.
why is it not available? I mean, it's a question
that's a good
that must
question.
take a central position in our discussion.
Right.
Yes.
Why is this document not available?
One would hope that these monies that are being used for these rallies some of it would go to printing.
To
It,
printing.
it isn't money.
You know?
It
Yeah.
isn't money.
And-
Money is not the problem. It's very clear that there's reluctance to have this document actually available to people.
There is
because
no-
what happens is that you give people the power once you put information in their hands. And that, of course, is something that, clearly it's
clearly
not
being
wanted for the
avoided.
people to have.
Yeah.
At this
It's
stage.
obvious. At
Yes.
this point, we really don't want people to know what's really going on. Let's hoodwink them for some time, and then later we can release it when things have already been set in stone.
But my only problem with this story is that it leaves us on with a cliffhanger. Almost an hour of bickering, and the meeting resumed when Mr. Kahiga promised more copies will be brought for the residents. So
More copies?
Nobody knows.
Meaning there were
whether
copies.
So there were
eventually- whether the copies
Don't worry,
eventually
they'll come.
arrived.
But an hour of disruption.
Yeah. And bickering. And then
Only 1 hour.
They gave up too soon.
1 hour is not a long time.
They needed some more time
Well,
They needed
to make an
and-
impact.
and even
They needed
this
to put in
wasn't-
more effort and more time to at least make an impact.
but this wasn't a disruption. I mean, if you are having a public debate, if you're having public discourse, what do you think this is? It's discourse. We want this.
Yes.
We don't have it. Why don't you have it? It's discourse. So even this representation is somewhat misleading. The meeting was supposed to engage the people were engaging them. So the process was actually ongoing. It's just that it may not have been following an agenda that had been laid out,
Yeah.
but it was a public forum, and this was the public giving you their views.
Yes. Starting from the very basic
Yes,
of we need
yes.
to.
And the BBI debates are supposed to that elicit and solicit views from the public. The public were giving their views. So this was not a disruption.
The public has spoken.
It's just that a new agenda was added to that particular discussion.
Talk of disruption then. Let's go to Kakamega. 31 MCAs walk out on Oparanya during the official opening address of the county assembly.
Out of a total of how many MCAs?
31. So 51 ODM, 29 Amani, Ford Kenya has 3, United Democratic Party has 3, Jubilee has 2, and Independent has 1. So this is quite a substantial number of MCAs who decided we are not going to be addressed by Oparanya unless his administration accounts for taxpayers' money sunk into the ailing Mumias Sugar Company. When we ask for whereabouts of this money, we are intimidated. We refuse to be gagged.
Okay.
Okay.
These are all the minority ward reps. So he was only left addressing the ODMers.
You realize that the wind is now moving in a certain direction now when it comes to county assemblies, right? It seems that the order of the day is that, up in arms gives some kind of results, whether it is going towards impeachment, whether it's going to some kind of change of anything. Up in arms seems to be the order of the day, right? And if we come together and protest against something, the likelihood of us either one being heard or something being done is then quite high.
And this is the kind of mass action I like to see.
What on earth were they walking out for?
Because money was supposed to have been pumped into Mumias and they wanted answers. Where did this money go? Of course they're sending a message. Where did this money go? Mumias is still on its knees.
Do they think the money existed in the first place?
What do you mean?
They were asking for something that disappeared down a black hole.
A very pertinent question. You see, when you hear a statement that is attributed to the government that we plan to do this and we hope to pump X billion shillings into it, the money isn't sitting somewhere in a corner or where you can send two of your people to go and collect that money and then run. It doesn't work that way. If the government already had the money, they will talk about modalities of how it is they're going to give
dispense
it.
Yes.
And also when the government says they are going to spend, it doesn't mean they're going to give you the money. No, it doesn't mean that at all.
Yes, but you can account.
But you'd expect to see
And that
things
is
on the ground.
the question that
That's
the
what they were
MCAs
asking for.
are asking. Those are just simple questions. It's their job to oversight the executive.
It is.
The executive is coming to address the county assembly on the state of our county.
Yes.
So we are telling the head of the executive, look, your government has come to us and asked us to approve a budget, and we have approved the budget. And some X amount of money was allocated to the revival of Mumias. We've been asking questions for you to account whether what you asked us to approve for, has been spent and where the results are. You have not been giving us answers. You've been intimidating us, according to them. And now you're coming to address us? No.
They're not even listening to you. Come and go.
Have none of that. And if you look at the picture on that story, it's on page 21 of the Standard, it speaks volumes. Literally, he was addressing empty red seats. Nobody was in the house. I think, according to this frame that we're given here, nobody was in there.
You can always download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store, and just one subscription fee. You get to access all of Standard Group's publications, including the Standard, the Pambazuko, the Mount Kenya Star, and all the pullouts. Every day there's a different pullout. Today, being Thursday, is the day for home and away, the real deal in real estate. Now, it has a very interesting story which talks about new plans to save homeowners from buying air. There's a bill that has been taken to Parliament, to the National Assembly, and this bill is seeking to ensure that if you buy an apartment, you can get a title deed for your apartment. You see, right now, what you get is what
How does that work?
The title deed is one, and if you're buying an apartment, you get a different certificate. So the apartment owners will now hold individual title deeds under a radical new plan proposed by the government. This is the Sectional Properties Bill of 2019, currently before Parliament, and championed by Lands and Physical Planning, seeks to address the legal loopholes that have exposed flat owners to unscrupulous property developers. It will repeal Section No Properties Act of 1987, and it aims to give the owner of an apartment more power than what is currently vested in management companies. Because the one title deed, which means that all of you collectively have a share maybe in a management company, and then that management company is the one that tells you what to do or what not to do. You as an individual, what you have is basically just a lease.
Yeah, space.
Yep. You own a lease. Now you can be given a title. And you know Kenyans and title.
Yes.
Have the title.
Title is king.
This is it.
I think it's a good development.
It could also bring in some issues. Now imagine if everybody holds a title.
Oh yeah, in one building.
This is mine. Okay? You cannot come and tell me what to do, what not to do.
I guess the titles would be specific to you, what part of the space above the ground you own. I mean,
yes, and what you can do and not do. Because see, that's what that's what leases actually are able to do. Leases are able to tell you, no, this is conditions for your lease. You cannot, for instance, paint externally on your apartment. You cannot, you cannot change the structure externally of this apartment. You cannot add a new window. It's the way they are is how they shall remain. So maybe this one changes that, and we'll seek to address those challenges that keep emerging.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so the poor are going to get a 30 shilling a day health cover. Low-income earners will require 30 shillings a day for a comprehensive insurance cover that will enable them to get treatment at clinics backed by Population Services Kenya. This is a health franchise between Tunza Clinics and Insurance for All, a micro-insurer. And what they've said is that here's an opportunity for those who would not, normally be able to access health care. At least you pay 30 shillings a day, then you're able to access this on another level, obviously through other insurers. NHIF has not been able to do that yet.
So this would be an alternative to that.
Exactly. And it's interesting that we see this player coming into the market at this point,
Yeah.
especially with
So
the woes that are
strategic.
bedeviling the fund right now. So there's an option for people in terms of then what you can do, literally 900 shillings a month, and enables you to go in and get some kind of treatment. So it just points to the fact that there are options and there are things that can be done, even when you're trying to be creative.
And
with the funds that are already available.
And it does cater to a segment of the population
There are
that
always
usually
options.
is overlooked.
What I have a problem with in the Kenya's insurance sector is, they seem so narrowed down on a few products. If they thought of bringing and introducing more and more products. So, for example, why do you have to pay insurance annually? Why can you not pay daily? So there are new companies that are coming up with, e-platforms where you can just take on insurance on a daily basis or on a regular basis, say weekly or monthly.
Yeah. Because there are people who do live like that.
Yeah,
They earn
so-
daily. They can't even
Not
pay
people
for...
who a very large number of people in Kenya live from hand to mouth, literally.
I mean,
People
which
actually
sector
would
do you
keep-
want to look at? You want to look at the matatu, the public transport, for example. These are people who earn a certain amount and it's put in their pockets every day. You want to look at casual laborers in the entire industrial area. You want to look at Mamamboga, for example. You want to look at motorcycle riders. This is money that is put in their pocket every day. It's expended every day. They're buying food daily.
Yep.
So something like this would then kind of make sense for them, right?
Absolutely.
Because then it's money that's entering into your pocket. It can be now, and then you
You
find
can
that
think of how now to balance it out.
balance it.
every
Pay
day,
10 bob every day and
As
goes into
opposed
all
to-
insurance policy.
Absolutely.
Literally,
because if
people
you get
who-
sick,
yeah.
they're the ones who now are looking to gather money from other sources.
These are the people who depend on the Kadogo economy, you know,
Yes.
the little sachets of blue band and fat, the 10 shilling vegetables. So I think this is a part of the population that is often overlooked. Nobody, when they're budgeting or making their business models, even banks do not give loans to this particular
IMF and other such bodies call it the hidden economy.
the hidden economy, absolutely.
And it's in our face every day we
Yeah.
see it. So where is it hiding exactly?
In plain sight.
Yes. Hiding in plain sight.
It's interesting also on the same page, Kenya Power has sunk into the worst performance in 16 years, turning the spotlight on a push by the state-controlled electricity monopoly to raise its tariffs to improve performance.
Increase what again?
Tariffs. Because in the last 16 years, they've never performed this badly. The power firm said yesterday, meanwhile, continue to consume power on a daily basis. Have you been out of power for the last 2-3 months? No? You still pay for it? You? Okay. The power firm said yesterday that the net profit shrunk 12.5 times to 262 million in the financial year ended June 2019. This is in contrast with a net profit of 3.26 billion posted a year earlier. The last time Kenya Power failed to make at least 1 billion shillings in profit was in 2004. It had posted back-to-back losses of 1.87 billion and 2.89 billion in the preceding 2 years, respectively. So again, yet another corporation saying that the only way for them to get back on track is to do what? Raise the tariffs.
So aside from the thievery that was happening a few months ago, that was discovered last year, that would mean that we'll be paying for those people who are selling tokens in a rogue way. Now, there's another reason why you're going to be paying even more. Is that the implication?
Yes.
Yeah.
The plan has been to, right, the poor performance, as we've seen, comes at a time a bid by Kenya Power to raise tariffs remains pending. The plan has instead been met with tariff cuts and government bids to relieve consumers of costly electricity. So it's interesting. You see now,
Electric
the government
boat.
has been
The long
putting
game
look at it
here.
here. The government has been putting pressure to relieve consumers and say reduce the tariffs.
Yep.
And then here, Kenya Power says, you know what? Actually, in the last 16 years, we've never performed so badly. So we need to get back on track. And
Who are they blaming?
the only way to do this is to raise tariffs.
Whose fault is it that they're
Is
not
it
performing?
coincidental that this has happened at this
Let's
time?
start. Who owns Kenya Power?
The public.
We do.
It's a listed company. Well, so there is government, of course, shareholding, and then, of course, it's listed.
Yes,
I see a route towards same kind of conversation that we're having about Kenya Airways the other day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nationalization.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's still a monopoly. Who
So
else
things-
provides power in this country?
You know, a company that is, in private hands now getting back to the national government.
Yeah. And they're very well positioned to perform well because competition
Does
isn't
not exist.
there.
What
So
makes you think
why
they're not
would it-
performing well? You know,
They're
this is
very well.
no,
This is just
that's a reporting
This is
issue.
a report. If you are call it speculation, call it conspiracy, call it whatever you want to call it. Everybody's always looking for an opportunity to get more.
eat.
CT keeps giving the example here of banks who are doing superfluously well, but
Posting
then
billions in
posting
profits.
billions, but
Yeah.
they're sacking people. But they still want to continue making more money. Here you are, a monopoly. You can't say that there are other players in the market. So what are the factors that then determine this kind of failure? There's nobody else who's begging for the same space as you or competing for it, no
It's
less.
yours.
It
Yes,
is
it's
yours.
yours.
Literally, it is yours.
And the competitors
Nobody-
are their own also.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
competitors belong to you. It's all in the same. It's a sister, cousin, auntie. All of you are in the same family.
Clans.
It's this exactly.
Clan members, yes.
What
So
I
then you
hope-
want to come and tell us and expect us to believe that you're actually doing poorly.
badly. How
Sorry.
come? And whose fault is it? Yours.
So
Now,
they've expanded power, countrywide, right? So they're running now a bigger infrastructure than they were running 10 years ago. They are the people who are, of course, in those machinani places are not paying as much, but yet the cost of managing this infrastructure countrywide is higher, and the tariff is the same. That's why probably profit
Eric, the
would
tariff
reduce.
isn't the same.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you look at your electricity bill, just take a look at your bill. Have you ever not wondered what some of the things they charge, what those things actually
What does it
mean?
even mean?
A lot of it is tax, remember.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So the money that goes to Kenya Power is not everything that you're paying in your bill. Your bill, a huge portion of it is going to the government. The money that goes to Kenya Power is what they've charged you as unit cost.
Eric,
The rest,
Eric,
see
that's
how-
what you see. When you have a monopoly, we can't even determine what that unit actually really costs. It's you who will tell us what it costs,
Yeah, you're
and
the
we
one-
have no option but to believe you.
You dictate the prices. You
The price is
basically
dictated
dictate
by-
the
no, no, no,
drops
no.
and such. Oh,
You
come
know
on.
what I hope
Yes.
happens in this scenario.
Energy and
I
Petroleum
hope-
Regulatory Commission.
I
It's
hope
the
what-
one that determines the tariff.
Okay.
I hope
to the one
what,
organization that still has it in this country.
Yes.
I hope what happened to Telcom happens to KPLC, so that the other players in there bring competition.
Collapse and bring somebody
yeah,
else.
Yeah, and just at least, even if we're paying as much, we can have something to show for the money that is going.
You know, if you look at the distribution of power in the country, rural electrification and how power was brought to the so-called Mwananchi, people assume that that's where the money is made. Remember, a lot of the money is made in industry. People who consume real power in huge volumes.
That's where the money is coming from.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, even if you increase, say, the players or your customers, no business goes into expanding its customer base without having looked into what it will cost to do that and what they expect to get in return, and at what point they'll break even and at what point they'll start making money. It's not difficult arithmetic. It's not something that one should break their brains thinking over. The story of KPLC is not very different from the story of Kenya Pipeline. Okay, here you have an organization that has really no competition to speak of. They provide a service that is needed, so it cannot be said that there is no demand for it.
But remember, CT, many of the decisions that you have to make as an organization, private as you are, monopoly as you are also influenced by politics.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a
Yes,
government
this
that
is true.
comes into place and says that we need to expand our electricity provision countrywide.
Yes.
Ensure that 99% of Kenyans have access to electricity.
Yes.
This is your money,
Yes.
right? It's your cost.
Yes.
And then they're telling you manage that infrastructure.
Yes.
And probably it's not enough for
It would
Probably if the management of KPLC, they were asked, they'd have said, we don't need to, we don't need to
You know,
expand.
it would be
Okay.
an issue if you're expanding and you're not getting anything in return. You're just spending. But you're spending so that you can increase
the-
your revenue base. So it balances out. In one way or the other, it balances out. And now that we have devolution, what it means is that there is more money in the rural areas than previously was the case. So the ability of people to even meet some of these demands or the payments
those
that are accrued, it's higher, meaning the investment was and is a worthwhile investment.
Sometimes not.
So their bottom
Like when
line
what
should be
happened, for
better
instance?
now.
Like when the government tells you you've been charging people so that you can, get the transformer costs sorted, you can get the power poles sorted, remove all that, waive all that, provide power. That is a cost,
It is a cost, Eric,
and
but
it affects you.
it does affect you, but I don't think that it's given as a decree and there is no discussion that these people have with the government. They do. And after all, the government is part of this. They are shareholders, and they also stand to benefit. Or are we saying that the government is actually going to make decisions that kill its own profit base or stops it from actually making money?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Political expediency. You're joking, man.
Political expediency in this country?
Yes.
Ahead of
Wait.
profit?
Yes.
And self-interest?
Yes.
No.
The self-interest is that, well, we've come to the top of the hour. It's coming up to 7 o'clock. Trixingado, thank you very much. You'll
Thank you
be
for having
heading
me.
back to KTN News Studios. We'll see you again tomorrow on the Morning Express.